goes on now, getting the best of El Diamante Negro. Swift Stefan takes second, a Kitten for Sue, and Captain Willis. They're at the top of the stretch, and Tiz's Harbor cruising along, lets it out a notch, and opens up 4 coming to the 8th pole. A Kitten for Sue at the rail. Here's Captain Willis in the center of the racetrack, closing good ground now as they come to the 16th pole. It's Tiz's Harbor or Captain Willis. Tiz's Harbor, 2-length lead. Captain Willis getting closer with every stride. It will be Tiz's Harbor in front-running fashion. Captain Willis second, Swift Stefan third. Activated. In the gate. And they're off. Smooth and fair start. Yellow Sundress in the center is the fastest out of there. Activated has some early foot, as does Headed for Omal on the inside. Here's Certitude moving up, and Jai Ho has come up to take third. Princess Midnight trails. So it will be Certitude. She's the quickest, opens up a length and a half. Jai Ho now second, Yellow Sundress in third. Another 2 back to Headed for Ohm, reserved 3.5 lengths or so off her fellow color bearer Certitude. Another 2 back to Activated and Princess Midnight. Rounding the far turn, Hector Barrios and Certitude cruising along thus far. 2.5 length lead. Yellow Sundress set down in second. Then Jai Ho and Headed for Ohm. Activated Princess Midnight. Top of the lane, Certitude, 1.5 lengths to Yellow Sundress. On the outside, Headed for Ohm is starting to pick it up late. It's Certitude, Headed for Ohm on the outside, and Yellow Sundress. Certitude just keeps on going, though, and it will be Certitude. Certitude to win. Yellow Sundress turned away, Headed for Ohm, then Princess Midnight. As the closest casino and resort to Santa Anita Park, your sure to experience world-class is the last one to load. We're in the gate. And they're off. St. Sheila and Tropical Rain Day out alertly. They're joined by Kapalua Ride, who's faster than both and takes over. Renatus is fourth, already 5 or 6 off the lead, followed by Dixie Allure. Then it's Siempre Naman and Lucky Nea at the back of the field. Half mile to go. Diego Herrera with the pedal to the metal on Kapalua Ride. They've opened up a 5-length lead going to the 3/8 pole. Tropical Rain Day, St. Sheila, those two head and head. Renatus in a good spot, trying to close in from 8 lengths back, 3 clear of Dixie Allure, another 4 to Lucky Nia and Siempre Naman. A 1/4 mile to go, and Kapalua Ride still with a 4-length lead on Tropical Rain Day. Outside of her, St. Sheila is next. Then it's Renatus, Dixie Allure coming through at the rail. They're a furlong from the finish. Kapalua Ride just shifted very close to that rail and is starting to slow down. She's very weary. Here's Renatus on the outside coming, and Tropical Rain Day in between them. These two have swallowed up Kapalua Ride, and Renatus is coming at Tropical Rain Day. Renatus, nicely timed by Armando Ayuso, wins under a hand ride. Tropical Rain Day second, 3-way photo, Kapalua Ride, Dixie Allure, and Siempre Naman picking it up at the rail. In the gate, and they're off. Pretty even break. J&M Express and Smiling Lady vie for command early on. Pokerales third in the early stages, and Shanghai Mist is in fourth. Then the 2 grays, Shamaville, passed now by Super Ellie. Into the first turn, and it is Smiling Lady. not the easiest to handle, has it by a half a length. J&M Express right up alongside. These two not doing each other any favors. And J&M Express steps on the gas now and goes on to lead. Smiling Lady is in second, running a bit sideways still, and Poker Alice third. They're followed by Shanghai Mist. Super Ellie is comfortable on the inside, and four clear of Shamaville. Past the half-mile pole, the favorite J&M Express continues to be pestered at the rail by Smiling Lady, who's being worked upon to keep up. Then comes Poker Alice, who's two off them in third. Super Ellie fourth, and now suddenly Smiling Lady has bowed right out of it as J&M Express goes on. J&M Express leads by two. Poker Alice second, Super Ellie third, then Shanghai Mist. Smiling Lady was never happy today, passed by Shamaville. They're at the top of the stretch. It's J&M Express with a 4-length lead. Super Ellie comes through on the inside of Poker Alice. They're head and head, and Super Ellie is really kicking in now. Here comes Super Ellie under a beautiful trip from Frank Alvarado. Super Ellie comes back to score again and pulls clear, doing it by almost 4 lengths. J&M Express, Poker Alice, and Shamaville. All set. And they're off. Lady Sermon hesitated and was off very slowly. Perfect in gray on the extreme outside is out quickly. Here's Princess Hakawi now rushing through at the rail. And in between those two is Honorable Gal, who takes a very narrow lead. Just in behind them, Iris Prancer is now a joint third. And Lion's Lair moving up 3 deep outside of that pair to take that third spot. Crystal Proof is next, followed by La Popis, who's 7 lengths off the lead. It is an enormous gap to the next flight. A Crown for Kitten, followed by Top Anticipation, racing 2 lengths in front of your Royal Flyness and Lady Sermon. A quarter of a mile to go, and Perfect in Gray is the leader by a half a length. Honorable Gal in second, Lion's Lair third, Crystal Proof getting into the race, light blue colors swinging into action on the far outside as they come to the 8th pole. Lion's Lair making a 3-wide bid after the embattled leaders, Honorable Gal and Perfect in Gray, takes the lead as Crystal Proof continues to move in. It is Lion's Lair home free, and Lion's Lair will score decisively by almost 4 lengths. Noses bobbing up and down, too close to call between Honorable Gal and Perfect in Gray. Crystal Proof was 4th. Son of Hill. We're in the gate. And they're off. Sariha is going out for the early lead. Kitty Katana comes away in second. Raw Ability is eager third. Sakura Blossom, Do It Divvy, throwing her tail around pretty fiercely, is 4 lengths off the pace. And after a stumble at the start, Son of Hill is 5 lengths behind. Around the first turn, and it's Kitty Katana leading the way by a length and a half. Raw Ability is in second, Saria third, Sakura Blossom 3 off them in fourth. Son of Hill moves up on the outside of Do It Divvy. 6 lengths front to back. They straighten up for the run down the back stretch, and it's Kitty Katana leading the way by a length. Raw Ability, Aronis Racing 1-2 to the half-mile pole. Sariha is in third. Sakura Blossom just outside of her, 3 off the leader. 2 more to Son of Hill, and Do It Divvy trails. Around the far turn, Kitty Katana, Raw Ability goes to put the pressure on now. And Raw Ability within a head of Kitty Katana. Sariha has hugged the rail throughout, saving every inch of ground. Outside of her, Sakura Blossom, then Son of Hill and Do It Divi. They turn for home. Kitty Katana hanging in there. On the outside, Raw Ability. Here's Sariha, though, swinging to the outside, and here she comes with a final eighth of a mile. Raw Ability and Sariha, these are the two. Raw Ability got the jump, still full of run. Sariha's trying her best. It's Raw Ability or Sariha. Raw Ability. Barrios, Horonis, and Sadler strike again. Sariha was second. Third went to Son of Hill in front of Sakura Blossom. Full Moon Grazing. And they're off. Beautiful start. Full Moon Grazing, Care for Autism, but basically most of them right across the track, as Rhythm Girl comes through to take a narrow lead. She and Care for Autism are head and head, and Rosie Tinkerbell is a half length back in third. Robin's Tough Love in the four-path, a length and a half off the leader. Full Moon Grazing and Autism Inspiration trails. Into the far turn, Care for Autism narrowly, getting pressed by Rhythm Girl. A half length back, Rosie Tinkerbell still right there in the thick of it, as is Robin's Tough Love covering ground, but right there too. Autism Inspiration, a waiting room. She's right behind Rhythm Girl. And on the extreme outside, Full Moon Grazing makes a sudden bid. Top of the stretch, Rhythm Girl is the leader, but not for long, as Full Moon Grazing pounces and turns the lights out on this group. It is all over. She is going to romp 5, 6, 7 lengths. It's all Full Moon Grazing, trouncing the competition and winning by about 11 lengths. Autism Inspiration, Rhythm Girl, Robin's Tough Love. 24 minutes to post. In the gate, Big Mama Sue a little restless. And they're off. Very even start. Beau Soleil is going to the front. Tiergarten comes away in good order. Then it's Red Diamond and Big Mama Sue who takes third. Highlands is fifth at this point, and at the back of the field is Catarini. Into the first turn, the pace appears lively as Beau Soleil opens up 3. Tiergarten second by the same margin, and Big Mama Sue in the orange colors races in third. At the rail, it's Red Diamond racing 2 in front of Highlands and Catarini. Onto the backstretch. Beau Soleil, uncontested up top, has a 3.5 or 4 length lead. Tiergarten is eager to get after this pacemaker. It's another 4.5 to Big Mama Sue in third. Then Red Diamond, Highlands, Catarini. Single file into the far turn. Beau Soleil the target, 3-length lead. Tiergarten is getting closer now with every stride. Big Mama Sue and Antonio Fresu have 6 lengths to make up. Red Diamond, Highlands moves up on the outside now to take that 4th spot, and Catarini has trailed throughout, starting to gain some momentum. They pass the quarter pole and turn for home. Beau Soleil, Tiergarten, Big Mama Sue, Highlands widest of all. Behind them, Red Diamond and Catarini. Big Mama Sue is coming now with big strides. Gets a little tap to try and get by Tiergarten, and she's done just that. And it's Big Mama Sue. Big Mama Sue wins easily. 3-way photo for second. That got very tight between Tiergarten and oncoming Highlands. 4th to Beau Soleil.
What pool are you in? And I do not mean the swimming pool, even though the temperature today in Arcadia, California is going to be close to 80 degrees. I mean, what wagering pool are you in? Did you see the results from Monday, St. Patrick's Day here at St. Anita? One winning ticket in the pick six. You know how much it paid? $51,000. You know how much the player bought it for? $24. You hear everybody, oh, we can't play the pick six. It's too expensive. I've told you multiple times. There was a time a few weeks ago where another person hit a pick six on a $64 ticket. And I only talk about the big payouts. So you got to get involved if you want to make some money in the pick six. Of course, today's 8 race card means that the pick six begins in race number 3. Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Quigley, VIP player concierge, also your seminar host for the next 38 minutes or so. Delighted that you decided to join us on this Friday here at the Great Race Place. And my seminar guest, he's got a triple crown under his belt. He's a jockey agent, currently represents Kaz Kamura and Ace Espinoza. His name, Brian Beach. Brian, happy Friday. Welcome to the seminar.
Hey, happy Friday to you, Tom.
You're wearing the colors here, the Mariners hat, the Mariners jacket. You're from the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest. How are they going to do this year? Do you have any inside scoop on the Mariners?
Not really. I wish I did. I wish the front office was a little more active.
More active like the Dodgers are, as an example?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they're just sitting on their hands. They got the best rotation in baseball, and they're not adding bats, so I don't really get it.
You and I are both college basketball fans, and of course, we're in the middle of March Madness. Yesterday, one of your favorite teams, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, actually won and played very well. What was your assessment of their performance?
Yeah, they finally came together. They've been really inconsistent all year long, shooting-wise, and especially playing together as a defensive unit. And yesterday, they looked like the team that we all thought they could be. Unfortunately, now they have to play Houston.
That's tomorrow, the number 1 seed in their region.
Right, and so I think that's a tough matchup for them.
Well, speaking of tough matchups, one of the things that's been tough on you so far in 2025 is one of your main guys went down, unfortunately, Kaz Kamura. But I wanted to have you on the seminar today because he's back in action. His first mount is in race number 3. How's he doing overall? It was much more of a serious accident than we first thought of.
Yeah, when it first happened, it was a gate accident that we thought maybe high ankle sprain, bone bruising kind of thing. But over the next couple of days, it just didn't get much better with treatment. And then when we finally were able to go see a doctor, found that he had a hairline fracture in the ankle. And so they had to put a couple screws in, and it's been 2 months.
I was going to say this was late January, so it's been 2 months.
January 16th.
Right, mid-January. But, I mean, jockeys heal quicker than most of us, right? I mean, they're in such great shape.
Right. He's young, and he's fit, and he's a workout fiend. So that was never an issue. But and he's healed very quickly, and he's done everything you could possibly think of to help the healing process. He's bought all the gadgets. He's even done
he's motivated
stem cell therapy, and so he's ready to go.
Well, before mid-January, one of the rides that I was most impressed that Kaz put on was aboard a filly named Ricci in the Las Flores Stakes. This was back on January 4th. Let's listen to Frank Miramati describe the action and watch the runner breaking, or I should say wearing saddlecloth number 3.
And they're off in the Las Flores. Don't Bring Crazy bounces out sweetly and goes straight to the front. Pleasant wasn't quick out of the gate, but has moved up to take second. Here's Ricci, a close third, just 2.5 or so off the lead. Irish Wahini broke well, but is at the back of the field with Wine on Tap. 5 lengths covers them, heading to the half-mile pole. And it's Don't Bring Crazy the target, 1.5 lengths in front. Pleasant in second, Ricci at the rail, a close third still. Only 2 off them into the far turn while hugging the fence. Another 2 back to Wine on Tap, and 2 more to Irish Wahini. They have less than 3/8 of a mile to go. Don't Bring Crazy, Pleasant. Ricci needs racing room just behind them, trying to find a spot to slip through, and does. And Ricci will cut the corner at the top of the stretch as Pleasant takes the lead. Pleasant and Ricci. Ricci is loaded, and Ricci takes over, opens up on Pleasant at the furlong pole. Don't Bring Crazy in third, followed by Irish Wahini. A 16th to go. Ricci by 2. Pleasant trying her best, but she is second best to Ricci, who blazes home in the Las Flores.
Brian, Bob Baffert ran 2 in there. You saw Pleasanton was 1-5. You were on the 3-1 second choice. 109 flat. Ricci stopped the timer, and that was a really heady ride by Kaz, staying inside, being patient. Then when he found room, exploded through the lane.
Yeah, he's real good at that, at staying on the rail when he needs to, and he's aggressive. So that was kind of a typical Kaz ride, I think.
Now, not to shortchange Asa Espinoza, I did some research on Asa. You might not even know this, Brian. Maybe you do. Did you know that in the year 2024, Asa was the 24th jockey in the country in terms of number of wins? Now, that's very impressive from my standpoint, because here in California, we only ride 3 days a week. So a lot of jockeys around the country ride 4 or 5 days a week. He has a nose for the winner's circle.
Yeah, he did real well up at Golden Gate. I think he won 3 titles in a row at Golden Gate, and then the fairs as well. He was one of the top riders, and he's really developed into a good jockey. I had him when he had the bug here at Santa Anita and in Southern California, and then after that he made a couple stops, and I think riding at Golden Gate on the synthetic really improved his game. And now he's an all-around rider and a real good up-and-coming rider.
Asa has 14 wins already so far in 2025 against much tougher competition down here in Southern California. Let's watch one of those rides. This was the third race back on March 9th. It was a turf race going 2 turns. Asa led them from gate to wire aboard a horse called Atomic Drop for trainer Steve Knapp.
In the final furlong, Atomic Drop still has plenty left. 3-length advantage between rivals American Empire and Trusty Rusty outside of him, but it will be Atomic Drop. Atomic Drop simply ran away from them.
Brian, one of the ways I judge jockeys in terms of ability is, sure, most of them can ride on the dirt, but can they ride long on the turf? Because it's more of like a thinking man's game. Asa certainly has that dimension to him as he gains more experience.
Yeah, kind of what I was mentioning, the synthetic, I think, helped him develop some patience. But in Southern California, especially on the dirt, you need to put your horses
you don't want to be too patient.
Races. You don't want to be too patient. But then on the turf, then, you can fall back on those skills too. And I think he's done a real good job of that.
I mentioned, Brian, that you represented Victor Espinoza during his Triple Crown accomplishment with American Fair. What are some of your memories of that, extended run, that 6 to 8 week run when he won the Derby, Preakness, and Belmont? Does the Derby stick out more than the Belmont? Was there more pressure on you guys going into the Belmont? Just what are some of your off-the-head top of memories?
Probably more, the Derby was kind of a grinding race that day, and I don't think he probably was. I don't think we saw the real Pharaoh that day, and he still won, which told me and told a lot of people that he was, the real deal and a real good horse. When, you can win the biggest race in the world on a day when you're maybe not at your best.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I think I probably remember most is the Preakness, because we had lightning and thunder and rain that day, and it was really
everything that could go wrong, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like, we had the one hole, and the track had a lot of water on it, and so just kind of everything was sort of unexpected and an unknown until he actually did it. But he's a champ, and he got through that fine, and he looked like he was having fun out there.
I think I bumped into you the day before the Belmont at Belmont Park. Actually, we were both roaming around the grandstand and bumped into each other. Did you have nerves going into the Belmont, or were you kind of like, whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, fortunately, I had been through it the year before with California Chrome.
Sure.
Getting to the Triple Crown and at Belmont with the last race left to go, and and we know how that race didn't turn out, the right way. And so in horse racing, any little thing can happen, some bad luck, some whatever happens, and you don't get the job done. So that was just kind of, where we're at, just hoping everything, horse gets to the race, gets to the gate, gets out of the gate, all that stuff. So
he's found multiple Kentucky Derby winners, so he certainly has an eye for good horse flesh. We're going to find out who Brian likes on today's 8-race card. But before we do any of that, let's toss the microphone over to track announcer Frank Mirabani and get the early changes on today's Friday's program here at the Great Race Place.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park, the Great Race Place. The track is fast. Turf is firm with the rail on the turf out 30 feet for today's 8-race card. Here are the early changes. Race 1, early pick 5. Keep in mind now, there will be no show wagering with the scratches of 1, Hera's Hope, and number 3, Becky's Dream. 1 and 3 out of the first, no show wagering. In the second, early pick 4 wagering is offered. Keep in mind the all-turf pick 3 does start with the first. No changes in race 2. Third is the start of the pick 6, scratch number 5, Lilliput. In the fourth, number 2, Nala 1 pound over, scratch number 3, the Shishala. The 50-cent late pick 5 kicks off with race 4. Late pick 4 starts with the 5th, number 1, Unusual Memories 4 over. 5, Webster, 5 pounds over in the 5th race. In the 6th, $3 on the late pick 3 wager, no changes. Race 7, scratch number 1, Don't Test Your Luck. It's the start of the late daily double. And super high 5 wagering returns with race 8, scratch number 7, Rich Gold. Those are the early changes on today's card. Enjoy your afternoon. It's Free Friday at Santa Anita. $3 beers, $5 margaritas, free admission, free parking. Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's the Coast to Coast Pick 5. Today it starts at 1:47 Pacific with Gulfstream's 8th. They'll be at the gate for the opener in 58 minutes at 1 p.m. At this time, we go back to Quigley's Corner. His special guest today is Brian Beach, jockey agent for Asa Espinoza, as well as the returning Kazushi Kimura.
Welcome back. We're talking horses with jockey agent Brian Beach. He represents both Kaz Kimura as well as Asa Espinoza. It's our pleasure to have him on today's seminar. Before we take a look at today's 8-race card, Brian, question for you. We know Kaz is coming back today. How long has he been working horses in the morning, and roughly how many horses does he work every morning?
He's been working horses for the last week. We started out with just a couple the first day, and then he had a full slate on Saturday and Sunday and Monday of last week. So he's legged up and ready to go.
Was that Kaz's first major injury, or had he been injured before up at Woodbine that you might know of?
Yeah, he's had some injuries before, but nothing this serious, I don't think.
Sure. And what about Asa? Is he kind of a guy that shows up in the morning and bounces around from barn to barn with you?
Yeah, he's out there working every day too. And Asa is he's a hard worker, and you never have to ask him twice. He'll be there.
Two guys that it's a pleasure to work with, I assume. They seem very professional, very mature whenever I kind of bump into them.
Yeah, they're both great, and they're really good as far as working hard and never take a day off.
And it's a tough colony. I mean, let's face it, we got Flavian here during the winter. Dettori was here until the end of February. Juan Hernandez, Umberto Rispoli, Antonio Fresu. I mean, it's tough to get quality mounts.
It is, so you have to be out there working hard in the morning, and you have to, keep up with your trainers and your own business and make sure that you're taking care of business. And both of these guys are really good at that.
Let's take a look at today's 8-race card, Brian. Kicking things off in race number 1, wanted to make an important wagering note here. Take note that race 1 is the beginning of the $3 all turf pick 3. We don't normally see that, but just 3 races on the turf on today's card. So the $3 all turf pick 3 kicks off in race number 1 with the low 15% takeout, as does the 50-cent early pick 5, which always begins in race number 1. We're kicking things off for both wagers in race 1, sprinting 6 furlongs in the turf course. The rails today are at 0 feet. It's for fillies and mares. It's a starter optional claiming race. There are 2 scratches in the race, including one of the runners that you were supposed to ride, Brian. Both 1 and 3 have been declared out of the race. Just leaves us with a field of 4 no-show wagering. Morning line favorite likely to be Irish Rose on the bottom, who also dead heated with number 5, Rich of Joy. Rather than me talk about that race before we get your selections on the race, Brian, let's watch both Rich of Joy and Irish Rose compete in late January. The two, they're going to be wearing saddle cloths number 3 and 7. The one who has a tougher trip is Rich of Joy, who's going to be wearing saddle cloth number 3. Number 6, Irish Rose, who dead heated with her, was in the clear, but certainly covered a lot more ground because she was widest. So let's watch the replay for both Rich of Joy and Irish Rose when they dead heated back on January 24th, and listen to Frank Miramati describe the action.
And they're off. Blister in the Sun is very fast away from the gate, running super. Day Dawning is not far behind, and neither is Mucho Magical, one from the outside, moving up now and tugging pretty hard to take second. Here's Guitar Girl now in 4th. They're followed by Day Dawning, who was much closer earlier, now 7 lengths off the lead. Above all else is down at the rail. Then Irish Rose racing inside, burning at midnight, and Rich of Joy is at the back of the field, well clear of Matters. They move into the far turn. It's Mucho Magical and Blister in the Sun dueling into the far turn, with Guitar Girl in third, running super on the outside fourth. Day Dawning, 5 off the pace in fifth. Followed at the rail by Above All Else, Rich of Joy trying to make headway between horses, while Irish Rose with the yellow sleeves will swing widest of all. They're at the top of the stretch, and it's a wide open scramble. Running super on the outside is looking for the lead. Rich of Joy finding a very narrow seam, as is Guitar Girl on the inside. Day Dawning and Irish Rose. What a wild finish. Rich of Joy or Irish Rose. Irish Rose and Rich.
Brian, that race proved to be productive because the third place finisher, Daydreaming, came back to win. Also, the fourth place finisher, Running Super, we'll talk about in race number 2, also came back to be victorious. So that race, as I mentioned, proved to be very productive. However, you like the one dropping in for a tag for the very first time, number 2, Dancing with Magazine. Tell us why.
A couple of reasons. Cliff Size is, pretty sharp with these type horses.
He's cagey.
Yeah, he's cagey. He finds good spots, and I think he's found a good spot here. Also, so the inside post position really helps on these flat turf sprints. And so I think that gives Mike an advantage here.
Fair enough. You also like number 6, Irish Rose. Prefer her over number 5, Rich of Joy. What do you like about her? She's just 1 for 16 lifetime, but maybe did the light bulb go off?
Well, I'm not sure. I think just kind of her numbers have been a little bit more consistent than the other ones. I think she probably had the top rags number in her last race, and so if she can duplicate that, she'll be tough.
It's interesting you say the Ragazine number because, as I mentioned leading into the video, she did cover a lot of extra ground compared to Rich of Joy. You can see if you have the daily racing form in front of you, they both earned 67, but of course the Ragazine's taking ground loss, and that's why she has the better number.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're on the fence and you win without having to go wide, you don't get as good a number in the rags, but this points her out, for the ground loss.
Race number 2 begins the 50-cent late pick 4. This time we're sprinting on the main track. 6 furlongs the distance for maiden claimers. $50,000 is the claiming tag. We've got a field of 5. Number 5, Fireband, is the even money favorite. This is one of the examples, Brian, where when Kaz went to the sidelines, you actually lost this mount. This is the type of business you're trying to recoup now that he's back in action.
Yeah, exactly. We got Wally pipped here. We were supposed to ride this horse the other day, obviously, when he was injured, and so we didn't. And Brian has kept Frank on, so good for him. And he's, in my opinion, the standout in this race.
Well, you talked about Frank Alvarado did nothing wrong in the last race. Let's actually watch that replay. Won by Running Super. That's who Fireband finishes second to. It's just a field of 5 going 6.5 furlongs. Today's distance is 6 furlongs. So let's watch Fireband's last effort. It was back on February 9th, the second race, and listen to Frank Miramati describe the action.
And they're off. Very even start. Petite Ange is out quickly. So is Bolt on the Rocks coming through along the inside. And Bolt on the Rocks now battling for the lead with Carson Jen. Those two stride for stride. And Running Super just outside of that pair. 3 lengths back to Fireband. And Petite Ange, who broke well, is now at the back of the field. It's Ricky Gonzalez and Bolt on the Rocks going past the half-mile pole, leading a half length. Carson Jen in second. Then comes Running Super third, and then Fireband fourth, 3 lengths off the lead. Another 2 back to Petite Ange. Into the far turn, Running Super puts the pressure on and takes the lead from Bolt on the Rocks. And Running Super opens up a length and a half. Bolt on the Rocks losing ground. Fireman now moves into second as these two square off at the quarter pole. Running Super and Fireman head and head. 3 lengths back to Bolt on the Rocks in third there at the top of the stretch. And Running Super holding on to the lead, in fact widening, and it's Running Super by 2 with a furlong left to go. Fireband trying hard to once again close that gap. Running Super, Fireband dominating. It's Running Super a length and a half, and Running Super is too strong. Running Super beats Fireband. Long way back, Bolt on the Rocks was third.
Brian, Running Super, who we saw finish fourth in the first race replay, came back to win on the main track, earned a Bauer speed figure of 81. Firebrand earned a 79, has never earned that number up until this point. You like Firebrand on top, but you also give the comeback horse Brunch with Amy a little bit of love. Pete Urton does very well with these layoff runners.
Yeah, she's never run for a maiden claiming tag before, so this is just a class play here.
Fair enough. Let's take a look at race number 3, which, as I mentioned, begins the $2 pick 6 today on an 8-race card. We're going 1 mile on the turf course for maiden claiming 3-year-old fillies in for a $62,500 tag. Scratch the 5 leaves us with a field of 6. Morning line favorite is number 7, Dandy Vandy, taking a drop down in class for trainer Phil D'Amato. 7-5 on the morning line, but this is your comeback race. Number 1, Tavalera from the Carla Gaines barn. How much selling did you have to give Carla that Kaz was 100% and wanted this mount?
Not too much. You know, Carla's a fan, and she wanted to put him on something she thought was live, and that's what she's telling me about this this filly here. That you know, the first race she really didn't know kind of what the whole game was about, and now the light's gone on since that race, and she feels like she's going to, you know, make a good accounting of herself.
Well, it's interesting, Brian, to marry your comments with the workout video for Tavalera's second to last workout back on March 5th, courtesy of our friends at firsttv.com. This is Tavalera on the outside, and this is on the training track, of course. As they approach the far turn, you're going to see Tavalera certainly make some separation with her workmate here, and I thought this was a really, really good workout. I don't know if you've seen this video before or if Kaz was maybe in the saddle for this workout, but nevertheless, just visually, I thought this was a pretty strong workout.
Yeah, I know that's not Kaz. I believe that's Utah, Carla's main exercise rider. And matter of fact, he's one of the people that kind of gave me, you know, confidence in this filly today. He likes the way she's been training since her last race.
It makes a lot of sense, right? Like sometimes, as you mentioned, Brian, the first debut race, they don't really know what they're doing, but all of a sudden you mix in a couple of good workouts, like the one we just saw there. Take a slight drop down in class, and all of a sudden you're 12-1 on the morning line. You might be a bettor's best friend in your comeback race.
We hope so. That would be nice.
But you are concerned about number 6, Preem, from the Michael McCarthy barn, to perhaps upset your comeback choices. Tell us why.
Well, she's just the one, you know, on paper looks to me like she's sitting on a win. She's dropping from maiden special weight into this maiden claiming, and it doesn't matter whether it's 62.5 or 50. Those are always bigger drops than what they actually look like, and you know, so she gets a big class relief here.
Race number 4 begins the 50-cent late pick 5. This race is 1 mile on the main track for fillies and mares. It's for either 3-year-old fillies or fillies and mares, which have never won 2 races. The reason why that distinction is important is because number 2, Nala, has actually won 2 races in her career, and she's the only, I should say she's one of 2 3-year-olds in this field. But you read the morning line favorite here. You rode Nala last time, but you jump off to ride number 1, God's Favor, for George Papadromo. Likely to go lower than 3-1 since the morning line favorite, number 3, the Shushala scratched, leaving us with a field of 6. Let's first talk about God's Favor. Why, if you had a chance or a choice, why did you choose God's Favor over Nala?
We had a choice, but this was not OJ's, you know, preferred race. He was trying to enter her in a different race.
So he was forced to run here since
yeah,
it didn't go.
It didn't go. And then also for George on God's Favor, in the last 2 starts, that was not, you know, those were not her preferred races either. He was trying to run her on the dirt, but excuse me, had to run on the turf because the races failed to fit.
And you can see, Brian, as you recapture your voice and you're a little bit under the weather, number 1, God's Favor, has had 2 starts over a fast dirt track, both of them at Los Alamitos. She wound up winning one and finishing a good second another. Now she's been running, other than that, on the turf course. Maybe the bottom line is this is her preferred surface more so than the dirt, more so than the turf.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to give her a shot to, you know, at least make up some ground and be close. And I think there's probably going to be a pretty decent pace in this race.
Let me ask you a question, Brian, about number 2, Nala, who we can see on the graphic is your second choice in the race. She's going long for the very first time. You have years and years of experience as a jockey agent and even reading the racing form. Do you think a horse's first time going long might be its best effort? I mean, I hear that time and time again, and it's actually proven to be true. They're kind of fooled, right, the first time they go long?
Well, you can see horses that don't actually, you know, do well going long after their first start.
Correct.
That their first start was their best, and I think that's a little bit of it. They're a little surprised, and they just keep running, and but it may not be exactly what they want to do in the end. You know, this filly of OJ's, she could very well be okay going long. We entered her in another race going long. It just didn't go.
Sure. We just don't know until they do it. That's for sure. Race number 5 begins the 50-cent late pick 4. Once again, we're going on the male track. This is for restricted maiden claimers in for an $8,000 tag. We've got a field of 7. Number 3, Bruiser from the Bill McLean barn is the 8-5 morning line favorite. However, you ride number 2, Elegant Life, who is 8-1 on the morning line. Let's first talk about Elegant Life. What do you know about her?
Not much. Asa rides this one. The owner and trainer are confident. They've both talked to Asa, and they've given him some confidence in how he's training, and think that he's stretching out, and they think that's what he wants to do.
Another one going first time long.
Exactly. And so, the one thing that I would be a little hesitant about here is that this horse has not worked at or ran a race yet at Santa Anita, and sometimes that's been a little tough on the horses coming from Pleasant, and they usually need an out.
We see that a lot with both Bill McLean and Steve Miotti and Tim McCann winning with these Northern California quote-unquote shippers, but yet they have workouts over the Santa Anita main track. A lot of these other Northern California trainers either don't have the resources or the time to do that, so that is a concern. We can see, though, that you like both Bruiser and Begin Again. Let's first begin with Bruiser. This is a drop down in class back to maybe a more reasonable level. Last time out, you had the Bug Boy actually ride this horse. Now you switch over to Kaz. Talk to us about Bruiser.
Well, that was another example of a race that was not the preferred race. This 8,000 maiden long race did not fill for actually his last 2 starts. And so he had to jump into option B and option C in the case of the maiden 20. So now he's back with his friends at the proper distance, and we think he'll run good.
And number 4, Begin Again, actually puts blinkers on for the very first time and does have a bullet work up at Pleasanton. I'm assuming without any video, putting the blinkers on. What do you like about Begin Again?
Just that he was, the other horse, I got a bad cold.
Yeah, me too. I know the feeling. Trust me. Take your time, Brian.
Yeah, no, just that he's got consistent form, and he hasn't had an out here yet either, but I think his form will stand up.
Fair enough. Let's take a look at race number 3. This time we're sprinting the abbreviated sprint distance of 5 furlongs in the turf course. Race number 6 also begins at $3 late pick 3 with a reduced 15% takeout. This is an allowance optional claiming race for Calbred 3-year-olds, non-winners of one other than. Good betting race here. We've got a field of 8. You don't ride in the race here, but number 3, Roman Gratis. First time on the turf course for trainer Luis Mendez is the 2-1 morning line favorite. Looks to perhaps be the controlling speed. Is it easy as that, or you're looking elsewhere, Brian?
Well, I like Bro. I think Bro is probably the best horse here. Won pretty easy last time, and I think that he can duplicate that and win again. And Roman Gratis, I think, should get the good trip and be right there.
I hate to lean on your voice since it's kind of in a delicate state right now, but I'd be remiss in not asking you a couple of brief questions. The first would be the sire Nyquist, who's the sire of Bro. I don't know how much time or attention you spend to sires, but Nyquist has been really lighting them up in terms of his babies being very successful, not only here in Southern California where Mr. Redham supports them, but literally all around the country.
Yeah, Johannes is by Nyquist, Tenma's by Nyquist. He's getting good runners on both turf and dirt. So, I think he's a really valuable stallion.
He sure is. And Bro, of course, is the affectionate nickname for Patrick Valenzuela. And I see P-Val around the track. He's obviously helping out a lot of different trainers. He's a little bit long in the tooth in terms of perhaps resuming his jockey career. But looking back over his career, Brian, I mean, you got to admit, he was one of the best jockeys, particularly coming out of the gate, that I've ever seen anywhere in the world. He had a lot of success riding a lot of different horses. Azeri comes to mind and many others for Mr. Paulson. Just your recollections of Bro/P-Val as a jockey in the heyday of his career.
Well, he had things you just can't teach. You just had a natural ability to get along with the horse, and he could put the lead pony on the lead. He was fantastic out of the gate. Really good, with just about any kind of horse, though. I mean, he could make a lot of horses change their form.
Fair, I completely agree with that. A very fair assessment and an excellent assessment as well. 2 races to go, Brian. Hang in there. I'll take it easy on you. Race number 7, we're sprinting 5.5 furlongs on the main track. This is a restricted race for $5,000 claimers. Scratch the 1, still leaves us with a field of 8. Number 2, Momo's Kiddo from the Tim McCann barn is the 5-2 morning line favorite. Who You Ride, also race 7, begins the $5 late daily double with a reduced 15% takeout. Give us your thoughts briefly on Momo's Kiddo, if you can.
I just think he was one of those horses that needed the race. he needed the outing at Santa Anita last time, and now he's had it. And so this should be if you can throw that out, he should be pretty tough today. I think Manny Badillas, my bucket list should be a tough one too here.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Brian, on Momo's Kiddo, because I actually went back and watched both the pan replay and the head-on replay, and the trouble notes that you can see in the past performances are actually accurate, and that's not surprising because they should be. But he actually kind of missed the break, when they sprung the latches open, and then he kind of was in a no man's position where he had to play catch-up, and he actually ran fairly well until about the far turn, and then understandably backed up. I do think with the slight drop down in class and the beaten favorite last time out, he's got every right to improve. Also, his workout back on March 15th shows that he's certainly in good form. So Momo's Kiddo, that last race might be a little bit overstated in terms of him not performing up to expectations simply because he had trouble at the break. You also like number 4, who you mentioned, my bucket list, from the Manny Padilla barn, making a jockey switch over Tiago Pereira. Tiago Pereira's had a lot of luck with some of these Northern California shippers. Craig Steeman is kind of knocking on a lot of new doors up in Northern California and finding the right doors to knock on.
Well, I think, Tiago's a really versatile rider, and so he fits all kinds of horses, and the Northern trainers are figuring that out too.
Race number 8 concludes our 8-race card, and of course, we're out for $1 super high-five wagering. We're traveling once again 1 mile on the main track for restricted starter optional claiming types. We've got a field of 9 after the scratch of number 7, Rich Gold, the morning line favorite. Number 8, Mother's Prayer from the Dean Pedersen barn at 5-2. However, you write Kingmeister for Bill McLean, 8-1 on the morning line. Give us your thoughts on race 8, Brian.
Kingmeister, he just needs to find his friends and a trip. So hopefully there'll be some pace in the race and he'll get a good trip here. I think he fits with these, if those things happen. Otherwise, Impossible Task would be my choice.
Brian, I'm going to end the seminar early because you need a sip of water and a good cough drop. So thanks so much for being so game and joining us on the seminar. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, giving us an update on Kaz Kamer and, of course, Ace Espinoza, who's been winning races in bunches. On behalf of all of us here at Santa Anita, nothing but the best, both today and going forward as well.
All right, Tom, thanks.
Thank you, Brian. One more wager to remind you about, everybody, and that's the $1 coast-to-coast Pick 5. Have you seen the payouts? If you're not in the Pick 6 pool, you should be in the coast-to-coast Pick 5 pool because the payouts have been tremendous. It's a $1 minimum, low 15% takeout. 3 races from Santa Anita today, but it begins with Gulfstream Park, race number 8, 1:47 p.m. Pacific time. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Good luck. We'll do it all again tomorrow, 11:50 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks for watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our national anthem. Good afternoon and welcome to Santa Anita Park, the great race place, on a free Friday. Free admission, free parking, $3 beers, $5 margaritas. Track is fast, the turf is firm. The conditions are brought to you by John Deere. Here are the changes, nothing new to report. First race, scratch 1, Hera's Hope. And scratch number 3, Becky's Dream. We start the 50-cent early pick 5 and $3 all-turf pick 3 with the first. Rail on the turf out 30 feet. Race 2, no changes. Early pick 4 is offered. There's no show wagering in the first. In the third, scratch 5, Lilliput. Start of the pick 6, race 3. Take out the 5. In the fourth, number 2, Nala, 1 pound over. Scratch number 3, the Shashala. Fifth race starts the late pick 4, a couple of overweights, 1 Unusual Memories, 4 over. 5 Webster, 5 pounds over. In the sixth, all turf, pick 3 concludes. Late pick 3 begins, no changes. In the seventh, late double offered, scratch 1, don't test your luck. Race 7, scratch number 1. And in the eighth, super high 5 wagering offered, scratch number 7, Rich Gold. The Coast to Coast pick 5 is offered on every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It starts today with Gulfstream's 8th. It's a $1 wager, and the player-friendly low, 15% takeout. They'll be at the gate for race 1 in 27 minutes at 1 p.m. Enjoy your day at Santa Anita Park.
Be a smarter better with First TV, the best horses. With thousands of exclusive morning workouts. All at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart. Bet smart. With First TV.